Hello everyone and welcome to Paragon Gaming UK. This is hopefully the first, this is the first part of what's hopefully going to be a nice, decent length series of Kerbal Space Program. If you don't know what Kerbal Space Program is, it's a game where you build anything from space stations. You build rockets, you send stuff in space. You can build space stations, you can build rovers, you can build things like manned vehicles to land on planets, probes, bases on other planets. There's aeroplanes as well, space planes. There's quite a few things you can design. This is one I designed earlier, which is going to be a probe, which will be the first launch for Kerbals. This is my Paragon Space Program's first attempt at getting into space. As you can see on the left, you can see the design, how you design the ships. These are all like launch pads. Some of these are from MechJeb. The top 6 and these 3 right here are standard. These ones or what I'm highlighting here are all part of MechJeb. MechJeb helps you. It's basically an autopilot. It can get you to new other planets. It can get you in a decent orbit. It can even land for you and take off. Actually, it can do just about everything. I don't like to use it too much, but I do have it there because I'm not too good at getting to other planets. And it can take quite a while to get to certain planets. Eve is one I'm still trying to get. Spent hours and hours getting to Eve, and I've still not got there yet. I'll show you some of the planets later on, ones I have been to, ones I haven't been to. I also have these vehicles here, which are landers. However, I don't like to use them. I usually go with this, and then build like a pod on top of that. These, however, this Mun rover is a mod. MechJeb is a mod as well, and I think I've got one other mod to help you scan planets, so you can get like satellite imagery, so you can see where best to land, if there's anything on the planets. I've only just got it, and I've just orbited on my old file I orbited once and brought the probe back down, and it was just a quick test, so I need to look at using this mod a little bit more. But for now, I think we're using pretty much all stock parts on this probe. I'm pretty sure we are. So as you can see, we've got the first stage is this big rocket in the heavy atmosphere. Well, it's not heavy, but the standard atmosphere. It's got quite a bit of fuel, and it's got a big engine to get us through, get us a bit of speed. And as we get higher into the into the thinner layers of the atmosphere, we do have a small engine under here, which will eject. The cover in the bottom rocket will eject away when I tell it to, when it's most likely when it's out of fuel. And then we have a bit of RCS tank here to help with turning while we're in vacuum, and SAS modules, which basically keep your ship steady, my rocket steady, and a battery which just helps power it just in case we run out. These things here also generate power constantly. I could have added solar panels, but I thought I'd go with this design, a little bit like the original Sputnik, but not properly. As you can see, the actual mod I'm using is called Staputnik, but I've called it Paranik. And I do have 4 communication antennas there as well, which will extend when I'm out in orbit, and some batteries, because we do have a let's just have a look what it is again. Is it utility? Yeah, it's actually there, look. We have an ion electric propulsion system, which uses xenon gas, which that's what that tank is there, which lasts quite a while. But it also uses a lot of electricity, so that's why we've got these large things here and not just a couple of small solar panels. Because when I'm trying to change my orbit or whatever I'm attempting to do, it will use quite a bit of power. So there's a fair bit you can do on this game. You can check gravity, pressure, thermometers. You got long range communication, short range communication, or medium range communication. You've got ladders and legs so you can land on planets, parachutes, but this is a probe, so currently there's no re-entry heat on this game, but it's coming out with the next update. So if I brought this back to the planet now after I've done with it, it will just hit the ground and blow up. However, after the next update, it will burn up in the atmosphere as I re-enter. You can see a few solar panels here. The largest solar panels are these ones, which are a bit too big to fit on our thingy, so that's why I've stuck these on. You can see wings, there's nose cones, there's quite a lot. There's decouplers, you've got strut connectors. I could kind of do with a strut connector. You'll notice when I'm launching, this top bit will wobble a little bit, but it is pretty safe. And these, which could be used for almost anything really. I use these for when I build a space station. It's extra space to add solar panels to. If you would like to know more about what these parts are, then just let me know and I'll give you a bit more in-depth description. You do have like different rockets. I'm using liquid rockets here. This here is a solid fuel, which should help in the heavy atmosphere. I'm pretty sure that's what it does. However, I'm not using that on this rocket. It's actually all I'm trying to get into space is everything above that white thing there. So that from that part up, everything that's not highlighted up basically is what I'm trying to get into space. I have done a couple of tests with this and it does work. One thing that can confuse people is if you edit something after you've designed it, you've got to change these stages. If you put the stages wrong, it could end up basically launching instead of this engine going off. You could end up with this engine going off here, and I know you can't see the engine, but it just kind of goes a little bit wrong. So let's let our Kerbals take the first step towards entering space, leaving the Earth. This is our space center. Well, it will be our space center when it loads. The Paragon Space Center, which is where we're doing the Paragon Space program. Could have kind of done another one of them at the side. As you can see, it's wobbling a little bit. Put SAS on so it gets ready to steady itself out. Fuel on max. What we want, as you can see, the atmosphere is. Well, that's the atmosphere. As we get to about there, I think when we leave the atmosphere, the lighter atmosphere, I think we're about 65,000 meters. I think 65 kilometers. I'm not exactly sure. So, for now, let's get ready to launch. Everything's ready. 3, 2, 1. This might be loud, just a warning. As you can see, it's wobbling a little bit, but I could add like things to make it a bit more secure. But let's just ease back off the throttle to see if I can stop that wobble. It's a little bit better. I know we're not gaining as much speed, but hopefully this will work. Once we get into orbit, I'll show you a couple of other planets. They are updating this game a lot. They usually do big updates, really big updates every couple of months. So you just have to wait a little while before you got some new content. The game does not get boring unless you sit on it all the time. There's a lot to do. If you use your imagination, there's so much things you can build and try and accomplish on this game. For now, though, let's see if I can turn to 90 degrees to start helping burn towards my orbit, but keep going up at the same time. Should do it. We've got our RCS on. RCS fuel is burning quite quickly. We've lost 10 already. Keep it burning at this speed for now. What I'll put it? Let's not put it on top, let's put it down to there again. So as you can see, as we're leaving the atmosphere, we are now nearly coming out the second layer of atmosphere. You can see, start there. You can see there's no blue sky anymore, it is black. And now we can see stars, we can see what I'm guessing some sort of, I'll just call it the Milky Way. The moon, this planet does have 2 moons. Outside moon's not very big, I've not travelled to that yet. I have been to this moon. There we go, so our bottom stage is now empty, so we'll eject that off. And I don't know why this happens, but every time I eject that, I have tested this, like I said, I tested it and then I brought it back down again, but this is going to be a permanent orbit. It kind of always loses control. So now, you can see that there. Let's put it onto a very gentle ascent. So this is my current flight path, what I will be taking. You can see my fuel tank, which is the white bar now, will crash just before me. And I'm currently going 377, so I really don't need to keep trying to gain height. That's just me not watching. So let's aim it down a little bit. And put a bit more thrust on. I'm aiming for about 2,300 meters per second. I'm sure if I'm right, get us into a decent orbit. The original plan was for this all down here to be ejected before I get into a stable orbit, but looking at it, it's actually I should have enough fuel to stay after it. So that's starting to go down gently. I can just aim it down a little bit more. As you can see, that's expanding around there. Eventually we'll get a circular orbit. I was aiming for about 100,000 kilometers, but I'll take what I get. I might even get this around, keep it around whatever it stays and get it up to about 100,000 kilometers. As you can see, we're gaining speed really slowly. This isn't as my last attempt at this with this thing to make sure it worked. When I did that, it's kind of didn't orbit as high, so I've burned a lot more fuel than I did last time. However, I am slowly getting into orbit. If you want to comment below and let me know what you want me to do on the next video, do you want me to try and build a space station, not even get to the moon, any other planets? Right, as you can see, we're about to get into an orbit. There we are. So once I get to about 100,000, so I know we're not going to get pulled back in through the atmosphere yet. I'll cut my engine off. There we go. So as you can see, we're now in an orbit at 223 and 100. So let's just orbit around to the other side. You can see the white line there's the orbit of the moon, or the mun as it's called on this game. So there we are. We've just done half an orbit around the planet, and you can see us orbiting there. Let's get the communication stuff expanded. Currently, the communications. Sorry if my voice was a bit funny or anything, because I've got a bit of a cold at the minute. Currently, I don't think the communication things really matter, but there is a mod. I think it's called Radio Tech. I think. And if you try and send the probe away from the planet, you will end up losing radio contact and not be able to do anything with it. Same as if something has no battery and you've got nothing to generate more power, no solar panels on all these little thingamabobs. It will just, you'll just not be able to do anything with it until it gets power, if you can get it power. So, as I said, I'll show you a few more stuff. There's a second moon here. I've actually passed it, really closely past it, but I've not orbited it, landed on it as such yet. Here is the solar system. The planets I've been to is Joel, which is basically like Jupiter, has a nice amount of moons. One of its moons is quite nice actually, Leith. There we are, it's a hell of a lot of water, but it's a nice bit of land. This atmosphere is slightly, there's not as much atmosphere as there is on the main planet on Kerbin, which we used to be called Kurth, if I'm right. But the view from this planet, I've orbited it, but I've attempted to land on it a while ago, but I did 3 attempts to land and all were unsuccessful. I kind of know, next time I do it, I'd know how to do it properly. I need to use parachutes, but I didn't at the time. So that's that planet. I've also landed on what would be Mars on here, which I say looks like a snooker ball, pool ball, 1 or 2. There we go. This is Mars. That's quite a nice place to land. I did get a lander on there and a little rover to drive about with, but I didn't explore properly. And I've also, one place I've really been trying to get to, but had no luck whatsoever, is Eve. This is a real pain to land on. I could land on it, it's just a pain to get to. It'd be nice if I could get there to try land on it, but so far, as you can see, there's a lot of craters. That looks like it could have been a crater. That you can see the big craters there, craters there. I don't know what's at that side. It has a moon as well. Let's have a look. That's more of an asteroid, but okay. It's a natural satellite, so technically it's a moon. You can see the sun, which is really bright. I have passed really closer to the sun. It doesn't seem to affect. You don't seem to burn up, but you know what can you do? One place I've also attempted to get to, which seems to be just as annoying, is this place, Moho. You can see there's a hole there, which glows a little bit, and there's a hole there. I'm thinking the large volcanoes. However, another place I haven't been able to find yet. So let's get back to our place. So here we are orbiting. So what I'm going to do now is deorbit a little bit. This might fail really badly. Let's slow my orbit down. The idea behind what I'm currently doing, the reason why I'm slowing this down, is to crash this side back into the planet, otherwise it'll be a load of space debris. It's not really what we want. So that's going close enough now to collide with the planet zone. That's it. This is our probe. This is Kerbin's first probe, first attempt at getting into space. The engine is very weak, very small, and it runs my power down quite quickly. However, I'm hoping I can get back into a stable orbit with just this engine alone. It does recharge fairly quickly from the amount of things I've got to it, but let's attempt it. Let's try and get back to a stable orbit. So that part down there, which had a bit of fuel in, had our RCS, and had most of our autopilot stuff, has been trashed and will crash back into the planet and save us having loads and loads of junk orbiting. So, and this here, which I think looks pretty cool actually, it's designed kind of similar to the original Sputnik, but I've had to make a few modifications to keep it modern and usable for more than 3 months. On my last save, I actually had some people on them, some Kerbals, which you haven't seen a Kerbal yet, apart from when I showed you the editing, you saw him on the ground, but normally when you're flying you see him in the little corner with all the little expressions, sometimes happy, sometimes, most of the times when I'm flying they're usually scared. But, yeah, you'll see, there we go, look, low power. Let's just cut it off a little bit, let it charge up, and I'll go again. In fact, while I'm looking at that, now we're back up to 23. Should be able to get back into a stable orbit in no time. So this here is actually in space for no reason whatsoever. It has nothing that can be of any use. It's just more of a how do things act in space for the Kerbals. That's leaving that behind quite quickly. I think on my next attempt I might build a satellite and start... the first things I want to do is build a satellite to orbit this place, and then I want to send a manned ship into orbit and bring it back down alive. And then after that I'll attempt to get a probe to the moon, orbiting that, and then try and land on the moon. And eventually, and at the same time as I land there, I'll send 2 rockets, one with a lander where people can live, and one with a vehicle, so they can get around. The manned lander will have 2 people inside it, about approximately 2 or 3 people, and the rover will bring an extra person, so on the lander it's going to have storage for extra people. Right, let's full engine again. I'm not quite sure how this engine works, if I'm honest with you, but it does. 2 kilometers away from that, what we're leaving behind now. If we look closely, you'll see it's pretty much going to get sucked in to the atmosphere around here and crash into the dark side of the planet, which will probably be about here. Maybe a little, I don't know. That's the original rocket from the bottom, which we shot off earlier on, which hit the ground. The large stage 1 part. So that's 37,000 feet. As long as it's over 65,000, I'm pretty happy. I might change my orbit slightly once. Once we get into a stable orbit again, I might mess about changing the orbit, try and get a little bit closer to the planet. I'm not sure what the perfect orbit is, but I usually aim for about 100 kilometers is what I aim for, above the atmosphere. It's not too far away. I mean, currently we're at 115, so normally aim for 100. I have orbited at 70. The closer you orbit, the more speed you need. Let's put engine on again. I've not had much experience with probes. I've usually jumped straight into larger ships. If you do buy this game after watching this video or any other video on YouTube, just remember you won't be able to, unless you're really, if you've watched a lot of videos you might be able to, but when I first bought this game, I tell you, I couldn't get anything into orbit. It was difficult. It took 4 days, maybe a bit longer, to be able to actually get anything into space. Actually, I tell a lie, there's a stock ship called, I think it's Kerbal, which comes with the main game. You can load it up and fly it straight away. It does have legs to make it look like it's maybe used as a lander, but it doesn't seem to have enough fuel to be able to do it unless it's to land back on the planet. Which I don't even know if it has parachutes to be able to do that. So, what happened with me is I just literally aimed straight up, carried on going and going and going, up, until I ran out of fuel. I thought, well, hold on a minute, how am I supposed to orbit? Then I found out the perfect place to orbit. You want to orbit at 90 degrees to get a straight orbit, same level as the moon. My orbit might be a little bit off. If you have MechJeb on, even if you don't use it for autopilot, it gives you a load of stats down this side here. I'll show you MechJeb on another patch. We're now leaving the orbit of this. I'm getting some Skype messages, but it will have to wait. One thing I do eventually want to build is a space station. I've had attempts at building a space station. I had a good design for one, which I've still probably got drawn somewhere. Probably got the paper I did when I designed it. Got to the part when I docked. It were 3 pieces to start with, and I got to the part where I docked the second part, which docked the first 2 pieces, and ran into a few problems. I got them close together, but I just couldn't get them to a point where there was going to dock. They kept basically bumping into each other and pushing each other into other orbits, and sort of switching between the two, trying to control them. I just started floating all over the place, and eventually, it frustrated me, so I just started crashing back into planet. Right, so it's 65 kilometers. I kind of want to get to 70 before I'm going to be happy enough to let this go. So I'll turn the engine off again. I'm not sure how this video is going to be. You can see the atmosphere there. I think this game is really... And yes, the terrain doesn't look brilliant from space. I'm hoping they do improve it. However, it still does look good. And if you're into astronomy or even possibly astrology, this game might interest you. Not really. You might not have heard of it. They're not advertising properly, from what I know. They are mainly selling by word of mouth. I did look for another game on the internet. I played a game years ago where you built a space station and you could walk about inside it. And that game, when I googled it to try and find it, led me to a forum which they talked about this and how good it was. Said this is not the full release yet, like, so they're still updating it. You can buy it for about $25. I think it's about £15 something. Definitely, if you're into this sort of stuff, it's definitely worth it. There's a demo on the website, which is www.kerbalspaceprogram.com. Pretty easy. Let's check. 69, 70 kilometers. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's get around there, and that should begin. It's just disappeared, so it must have just crashed into the planet there. As you can see, we're pretty close to the planet here. Let's just rename this vessel. Oh, I know it's a probe. That's very clever. And due to having these kind of dark, see, but because we haven't got solar panels, we've got a different way of powering it. It actually stays powered in the dark. It's not just daytime. Whereas if I built like when I build a what's the word now? I forgot it. Satellite. It will have solar panels to power it. So in the dark, it's going to have to have enough batteries to keep it powered. And then as soon as it hits daylight again, the power will just shoot up with the size of the solar panels I will be putting on it. So I'll end this video here. Let me know what you think, and if you've got some ideas of something you want me to build, any way I can improve this, just anything at all, please let me know. If you want some advice on how to build, let me know. If you want some tips, just anything to do with Kerbal Space Program. I'm not a professional, I'm not amazing. There is a guy who does really good videos called Scott Manley. If you want to check him out, his videos are really, really good. However, he knows a lot of stuff about space, and he's very detailed with what he talks about. And you might sit there a little bit confused, but you'll get the general idea of what he's talking about or what he's trying to do. He makes the game look really easy, and it's not, if I'm honest. I've recently been teaching my cousin and a few other people how to orbit, and finally, after quite a few attempts, my cousin, Paragon Vibe, has done it. He's actually got something into orbit, and he even, with the help of MechJib, got to another planet. However, he kind of crashed into it when he got there, which were a little bit unlucky. So, I'll end this video here. Just, like I said, comment below and just ask me anything you want to know about Kerbal Space Program, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for watching.